Hey everyone, ready for a deep dive into leadership?
Always ready for that.
Okay, excellent. Today we're diving into John Maxwell's book, Good Leaders Ask Great Questions.
Ah, a classic.
It is, right? So we'll be exploring all kinds of questions great leaders ask, both those they ask themselves and those they use to, empower the people around them.
Absolutely. It's a really fascinating approach to leadership.
Definitely. No matter where you are in your leadership journey, you're going to get something valuable out of this deep dive, I guarantee it.
I think one of the coolest things about Maxwell's book is that he doesn't just tell you what to do, he digs into the why.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah, like he shows how asking the right questions can unlock potential and really, drive growth.
It's about understanding the thought process behind effective leadership. Love that.
Exactly.
Okay, so Maxwell starts with this idea of the table.
hmm
Basically, it's a gathering of leaders who learn and grow together.
Through questions.
Yes, by asking each other questions. He even gives advice on who to invite. Have you ever been part of a group like that?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Like a mastermind group or even just a close-knit team where you can bounce ideas off each other.
Yeah, exactly. Where asking the right questions just helps you see things in a whole new way.
Totally. And Maxwell really emphasizes the importance of choosing the right people for your table.
What does he suggest?
People who genuinely value questions, who are invested in each other's success, and who understand that it's a we thing, not a me thing.
So it's about creating that supportive environment where everyone feels comfortable sharing and growing together.
Exactly. When you have that shared commitment, it creates a space where people can be vulnerable, challenge their assumptions, and gain fresh perspectives.
I love that. It reminds me of times when I've had a mentor who would ask me these really insightful questions, and it would completely change my perspective on a problem.
It's like having a sounding board, right?
Yes. Helps you refine your approach.
Absolutely.
So then Maxwell gets into these key questions that leaders should ask themselves. The first one is, am I investing in myself?
That's foundational. He really believes that personal growth is like the bedrock of leadership success.
Makes sense. If you're not growing, how can you inspire growth in others, right?
Exactly. Think about it. How can you lead effectively if you're not constantly learning and evolving yourself?
Yeah, that's a good point.
He actually uses his own journey as an example.
Oh, really? Tell me about that.
He was told he should start writing if he wanted to reach a wider audience.
And he took that advice to heart.
He did. And that one question led him to become a best-selling author.
With over 25 million books sold.
Amazing, right? Just shows how one question can change everything.
Totally. It highlights that you have to be open to feedback. Seek out perspectives that might challenge you.
Yes. And those tough questions, sometimes we have to ask them to ourselves, too.
So true. Okay, the next question Maxwell asks is, am I adding value to others?
He strongly believes that good values are at the core of what makes a leader truly valuable.
I'm totally with him on that one.
Yeah, and it's not about monetary value here, right?
No, definitely not. It's about the qualities that make a leader impactful and trustworthy and inspiring.
The kind of leader people want to follow.
Exactly. Think about leaders you admire. Chances are they embody values like integrity, empathy, a genuine desire to lift others up.
Those are the values that translate into a more positive and productive work environment.
It's true. And Maxwell actually connects this concept to his organization, EQIP.
Right, yeah. EQIP focuses on teaching values to leaders all around the world.
Shows how deeply he believes in this stuff.
For sure. And the next one is all about stability. Am I grounded?
Grounded. I like that.
Yeah. It's easy to get caught up in the whirlwind of leadership, but staying grounded is crucial for making good decisions and handling those, inevitable challenges.
So what does being a grounded leader actually look like? I'm curious.
Well, Maxwell says humility and learning from adversity are key. He tells this great story about John Wooden, the legendary basketball coach.
Oh, I love his stuff.
So his team, they didn't have their own arena. They always had to play in their opponents' arenas.
Wow, really?
Yeah. But
Wow.
you know what?
Right.
What seemed like a disadvantage actually became a strength because they were so used to playing on the road that they weren't fazed by away games.
Especially during tournaments, I bet.
Exactly.
That's amazing, turning a weakness into a strength.
It's all about mindset, right? Even setbacks can be opportunities for growth.
Totally. So how can we, as leaders, cultivate that resilience?
Maxwell would say it starts with self-awareness, being willing to learn from mistakes, surrounding yourself with people who will challenge you, give you honest feedback.
And having a growth mindset, like
Yeah.
believing that you can always improve.
Yeah,
Yeah.
setbacks. They're just stepping stones.
Love that. Now, on to the next question Maxwell dives into. Am I staying in my strength zone?
This is a big one. So many of us get caught up focusing on our weaknesses.
I know I do.
Right. But Maxwell says dwelling on weaknesses can actually hold us back. He uses Nolan Ryan as an example.
Oh, the baseball pitcher.
Yeah. He was naturally gifted, but he never stopped working on his pitching.
So it's not just about knowing your strengths, it's about constantly honing them.
Exactly. Become the best version of yourself by focusing on what you do well.
I love that. It makes me think of personality tests like Strength Finder.
Oh, yeah, those can be super helpful.
They give you a language to talk about your strengths,
Yeah.
but how do you actually translate those strengths into leadership skills
That's where self-reflection comes in, right?
and experimentation, trying things out?
Exactly. If you're naturally empathetic, how can you use that to build relationships with your team?
I love that. Viewing your strengths as tools you can use.
Exactly.
Okay, before we move on to the questions leaders ask others, there's one more question Maxwell encourages leaders to ask themselves.
Am I taking care of today?
That's a powerful one.
It is. Especially in today's world, we can get so caught up in planning for the future that we forget to be present.
It's easy to get lost in the what ifs and the some days.
It's a reminder to be present,
Mhm.
to focus on building those strong relationships and just do your best today.
It's about finding that balance between future goals and appreciating the journey.
Absolutely. And it's a journey that's best traveled with others.
Which brings us to the questions great leaders ask other people. Ready to dive into those?
I am. That's where the real magic of collaborative leadership happens.
I agree.
So Maxwell kicks things off with a question that might seem simple at first.
Oh.
What do you think?
Well, I got to admit, when I first saw that one, I was like, really?
Right.
But there's got to be more to it.
Oh, absolutely. This question, it's incredibly versatile.
How so?
Maxwell uses it for so many things.
Yeah.
Gathering information, confirming his intuition, even just sparking discussions.
And empowering his team.
Exactly.
Project.
Creating that culture where everyone feels comfortable sharing.
I like that.
He actually gives this great example of how he used this question when he was thinking about starting the John Maxwell team coaching organization.
Makes sense?
He had this gut feeling it was the right move,
Okay.
but he kept asking his inner circle, what do you think?
So he wasn't just looking for validation. He genuinely wanted their input.
Yeah. And their initial hesitation, it actually helped him refine the idea.
Interesting.
Because by involving his team, he created buy-in,
Yeah, a shared sense of ownership.
Exactly. He even says that asking this question has helped him dodge some bad decisions.
By getting those different perspectives.
Yeah, exactly.
It shows that good leadership isn't about having all the answers.
It's not.
It's about creating an environment where everyone feels empowered to contribute.
100%. Which leads us to the next powerful question Maxwell explored.
Okay, let's hear it.
How can I serve you?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Right. It really flips the script on traditional leadership.
Instead of self-promotion, it's all about service.
Exactly. Recognizing that leadership is about empowering others.
Helping them reach their full potential.
Yeah. Maxwell actually talks about how he uses this question when clients invite him to speak.
Oh, interesting.
Instead of just giving a canned presentation, he really focuses on understanding their needs.
So he tailors his message to them.
Exactly. It's about making a genuine impact, not just being in the spotlight.
Love that. But Maxwell also challenges us to think about how we might be holding our team back.
By not asking this question.
That's a good point.
He wants leaders to actively look for ways to support their team's growth.
To help them succeed.
Yeah. So how do you think leaders can put this "how can I serve you" approach into practice?
Well, I think one of the best ways is to just go to each team member individually
Okay, yeah.
and ask them, what could I do for you that would make your job easier, help you be more successful, and make the team better?
Love it. It's about removing obstacles, creating an environment where everyone can
It
thrive.
really is. Leadership is an ongoing conversation.
Not a top-down directive.
Exactly. Okay, what's the last question Maxwell talks about?
It's another short and sweet one. What did you learn?
I can see how that would create a culture of continuous learning.
Right. It's about encouraging people to go beyond just doing the work and really engage with the learning process.
To reflect on their experiences.
Yeah, which ultimately leads to more engaged and empowered team members.
Makes sense. So Maxwell then moves into some of the bigger challenges of leadership.
He does.
And he starts by tackling something a lot of leaders struggle with.
Leading themselves.
He even asks, why is leading oneself often harder than leading others?
It's a great question, right?
It really is. I think it comes down to self-awareness and discipline.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's easy to tell other people what to do, But holding ourselves accountable to those same standards,
Can be tough.
it can be really challenging.
Maxwell says it requires strong values
Definitely.
and aligning your thoughts, feelings, and actions.
You have to be the kind of leader you would want to follow.
Be the change you want to see in the world, right?
Exactly. If you want to lead others effectively, you got to start with yourself.
Lead with integrity and intention.
Love that. So now Maxwell talks about the challenge of dealing with difficult leaders.
He does. And he breaks it down into two specific scenarios.
Okay.
The first one is dealing with leaders who always play it safe.
Ooh, I've definitely encountered those.
I think we all have. It can be frustrating.
It really can. I've worked with leaders who were just allergic to change.
Like they were constantly putting on the brakes.
Yes, even when there were amazing opportunities.
Maxwell's advice for this: approach it with empathy.
Oh, that's interesting.
Try to understand their perspective.
Acknowledge their feeling.
Because often this risk-averse behavior, it comes from fear.
Or a lack of confidence, maybe.
Exactly. So instead of just labeling them as resistant, you create a safe space for them.
To express those concerns.
Yeah, and then you can work through them together.
It's about building trust and helping them expand their comfort zone. Okay, so what's the second scenario?
This one's a bit tougher. It's about what to do when a leader's influence clashes with your values.
Oof, that's a tough one.
It is. It can feel like a real dilemma.
How do you balance loyalty to your leader with staying true to yourself?
Right. Maxwell says to start by honestly assessing whether you might be part of the problem.
Take ownership of your role in the situation.
Exactly. And if, after reflecting, you still feel like the leader's actions are misaligned with your values,
What then?
Maxwell says gather specific evidence.
To support your concerns.
Yeah, don't just rely on hearsay or feelings.
So approach it with clarity and concrete examples.
Precisely. And even when you're presenting your concerns,
Stay respectful.
yes, and focus on finding a solution.
But sometimes, even with your best efforts, a leader's influence can be really damaging.
Maxwell acknowledges that.
So what does he suggest in those situations?
He recommends creating as much distance as possible.
Minimizing interactions.
Yeah. Or, if necessary, even considering leaving your position.
Yeah, that's a tough call.
It is. But, he says, no job is worth compromising your integrity or your mental health.
That's so important to remember. We often feel pressure to stay in situations that aren't serving us.
We do.
But we have to prioritize our own well-being.
Always. And if things are really bad, he says to document everything.
Especially if there are any ethical violations.
Or illegal activity.
That's crucial to protect yourself and maybe even others who might be affected.
Exactly. So we've covered a lot here.
We have. From asking what you think to dealing with those really tough leadership challenges. It's amazing how much we've uncovered
Right.
just by looking at leadership through the lens of asking the right questions.
It's so powerful.
It really shows how leadership is about so much more than just, giving orders.
Yeah, it's about creating a
But
culture.
has curiosity,
Growth.
empowerment.
Exactly.
So for our listeners out there who are, ready to put these ideas into action,
Yeah.
what's the one thing they can take away from this deep dive?
I think Maxwell's call to action is really powerful.
What's that?
He encourages everyone to create their own table.
Their own version of that gathering of leaders.
Exactly. A group dedicated to exploring leadership, growth, achieving goals.
All through the power of questions.
Yeah.
I love that. It's about taking that collaborative learning environment and making it our own.
Finding those people who will challenge us, support us, help us become better leaders.
I'm already thinking about who I'd invite to my table.
Right.
This deep dive has been fantastic.
It has.
It's a great reminder that leadership is a continuous journey
It is.
of learning, growing, and asking those thought-provoking questions.
And the more you ask, the more you realize how much there is to learn.
It's a journey that never really ends.
It doesn't.
So to all our listeners out there, keep diving deep, keep asking those questions, and keep leading with intention. Until next time, fellow learners.